all people, Jerry Seinfeld recently defended masculinity and says we need a return of strong men, which is just in time for Pride Month around the corner, right, guys? He said he loves big, strong, muscular men, just greased up with chest hair. I'm kidding, of course.
Simmer down.
I'm kidding.
Calm down.
But Jerry Seinfeld felt very passionate about this issue. This was on a recent podcast appearance with Barry Weiss, formerly of the New York Times.
I did like all of the Daily Beast and such type headlines were like, Jerry Seinfeld is still talking despite the fact that the Pop-Tart movie came out a month ago. Shut up,
Seinfeld
Jerry.
Is still talking despite the fact that we don't like him. Yeah.
He's kind of been
They're like the
repeatedly
rats
making
around the
comments like
trash
this.
heap.
Like he's like, I hate the PC crap that's ruining comedy. And then he gave that commencement speech.
I mean, I listened to that whole commencement speech. It was actually entirely wholesome.
Yeah.
The whole thing. It was fine.
And then he's also like defended Seinfeld for having not enough diversity.
It's really funny.
Things like that. But like he's a 70-year-old man.
It's so crazy that he's 70.
Yeah.
He doesn't look 70 at all.
No, he doesn't.
Some of my most progressive friends love Seinfeld. Like, love Seinfeld. It's their favorite show of all time.
But now conservatives are like, I always liked Jerry Seinfeld.
I will never care about Seinfeld. Not like it, but I will never care about Seinfeld, and I will never care about Friends.
I think that there's going to be a significant amount of people that used to be kind of on Democrat side that are going to be coming out and saying we're not on the Democrat side anymore. Like, because of a lot of different things, particularly the economy here in the U.S. and the way the government's been behaving lately. But someone like, Jerry Seinfeld coming out and saying those kind of things, like that's going to actually matter. Like the idea, hey, men and women are men and women. I think that's the biggest one that people are going to object to. You see it all over the place. People in politics are like switching sides and stuff because like most people are like, yo, you can't become a woman like at all. Like that doesn't work.
I didn't think that was actually going to be the drawing line. I thought it was maps that would end up being.
Well, he didn't mention.
I'm glad we didn't get to maps.
He didn't mention transgenderism at all in this interview. It's more so just like men should be men again.
Well, so
the
days of yore.
The days of yore.
Well, I mean, I agree, and to be honest with you, I think there's a lot of women that are starting to realize that they agree more than they thought.
Yeah. So let's hear him out here.
I couldn't help but wonder if part of it is maybe your own nostalgia for this time that feels like another planet, or at least another country.
Well, of course it does. But there's another element there that I think is the key element, and that is an agreed upon hierarchy, which I think is absolutely vaporized in today's moment. Okay. And I think that is why people lean on the horn and drive in the crazy way that they drive. Because we have no sense of hierarchy. And as humans, we don't really feel comfortable like that. So that is part of what I think is, if you want to talk about nostalgia, that's part of what makes that moment attractive looking back. And the other thing is, as a man, can I say that?
You sure you are? Are you?
I've always wanted to be.
I didn't ask your pronouns before we began.
I've always wanted to be a real man. I
pronouns,
never made it. But I really thought when I was in that era, again, it was JFK, it was Muhammad Ali, it was Sean Connery, Howard Cosell. You can go all the way down there. That's a real man. I want to be like that someday. Well, no, I never really grew up. I mean, you don't want to as a comedian because it's a childish pursuit. But I miss a dominant masculinity. Yeah, I get the toxic thing. I get it. But still, I like a real man.
Okay.
They cut it off right there.
It is funny because it reminds me of when Kumail Nanjiani had the article that came out, and he talked about how it wasn't toxic masculinity that was bad. It was just traditional masculinity that was bad. So they move the goalposts every so often. But he's not wrong about the interest in discussing the idea of of agreed upon hierarchy
They
and how it makes us, it's complementary for both men and
One
women.
moment. We got a $20 from Francisco Sanchez Jr. I remember watching Star Wars at my local drive-in the weekend it premiered, and it was cool. It was made for me. Anyway, a year later, Dawn of the Dead came out, and I fell in love. That was my Star Wars.
There you go.
There you go.
The days of yore.
The days of yore. When movies were movies.
When he says hierarchy in society back in the day, does he mean a hierarchy that put men at the top and women at the bottom of a hierarchy? Or is he talking about a hierarchy of men where we had like strong men at the top, weak men at the bottom?
I think he probably is referring to a hierarchy of competence, like Peterson talks about, like people that are I think. I'm not. I mean, that's a little bit of assuming too much of.
I took
too much into what he said, maybe, but I don't think that he was saying, bitches back in the kitchen.
See, what I thought...
Not yet.
No, that's
just
not,
wait.
What I thought he was talking about was that gender roles were more clearly defined and that men had a specific role in society and women had a specific role in society, and it made it easier to figure out how the world worked.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I think seeing the way that gender roles used to operate as a hierarchy is also just a postmodern idea. Like this idea that like women were subjugated before the 1960s or so, and that they had to liberate themselves from that hierarchy. I don't know if I agree with that idea, but
I agree. I don't agree with that idea.
I get it because he's from a different generation, and this is just something self-evident to him. That he didn't like evolve with everybody else in the culture.
Well, most, once you hit a certain age, you usually don't.
Richard Dreyfuss has been doing the same thing.
Yeah.
He's been talking about transgender issues and stuff like that, getting a lot of pushback.
Of course he is. Old guys can't talk about that stuff. You get in trouble.
Yeah.
Get in very big trouble for talking about things like that. But for Jerry Seinfeld, I look at it and I just think he was talking about men had a specific role in society, women had a specific role in society, and that was okay. And the world was easier to figure out when people had a general idea of where they fit within the world.
I think that's fairly obvious, isn't it?
Well, I would say there's still an unspoken hierarchy in society, but it just puts weak people at the top and strong people at the bottom. And you'll be punished for, as a man especially, being assertive, being successful and driven, being self-assured and not looking for approval for what you say or do. Those kind of behaviors are punished. So you're put at the bottom of the totem pole because you're not oppressed or marginalized.
Well, it's because your opinion doesn't matter if you haven't been considered marginalized to the majority.
It's the revenge of the nerds hierarchy that reigns today.
Well, that's because those are all operating within the same system, right? And the ones who benefit the most from those things that you mentioned tend to operate outside the system, meaning that if they're successful, they're running their own business. They don't have to rely on other companies or other people to provide for them.
Most of the responses to this, though, are just bringing up the fact that he dated a 17-year-old
when he was 38.
When was that? Like the late
90s?
90s, something like that. Which wouldn't even be socially acceptable for Leonardo DiCaprio to do in this day and age.
No, it would not. We got two big ones there.
Emily
One from
Ziegler.
Emily Ziegler.
I think he's simply putting that there is no more clearly defined masculinity in Hollywood anymore. Look at today's male celebrities versus those he listed.
I mean, that is true. Like the idea, even like somebody like The Rock, who is very muscular, is kind of about as bland and vanilla as you can be.
He's not actually super masculine yet.
Yeah.
We got another $69 super chat from The Walking Dude. He said, one of the fondest memories I have is at the end of airborne school watching Seinfeld with a woman I met from a bed in the Columbus Hotel. It was the episode where they had to take Kramer to the vet. We laughed so hard, then we never met again.
Oh. Wait, so is that an alpha widow?
Maybe you left her an alpha widow.
And for the to the Emily Ziegler's point, it is true. I think that the idea of Tom Holland being the action star of today, you know, even a Chris Pratt who is kind of doofy but an action star, like they're not the Arnolds or the Stallones of past years.
Yeah, but it was more about this like intangible quality they had, not just being muscular.
I think that Glenn Powell is a good example. Like we were talking about with Glenn Powell being somebody who looks like a dude who's a movie star, who knows that he's a movie star and is in good shape and looks like he could be an action star if need be.
Yeah.
But it almost seems like once Shia LaBeouf made Transformers, there had to be like a self-flagellating aspect to any male hero, which is why when men flock to somebody like John Wick, who just murks people and is extremely competent at what he does.
It's not really about appearances because he mentioned Sean Connery. And if you look back at photos of Sean Connery, he wasn't this like jacked dude who, you know, looks like Alan Ritchson back then. I mean, he was just masculine in spirit more so. And I think that's more important because as insofar as, you know, male stars in Hollywood are allowed to look masculine, they have to tone down the masculinity in the way these characters are written.
Correct.
They have to look like men but act like women to be acceptable.
Yeah.
To these standards. And that's why Alan Ritchson has been like self-flagellating as much as he has.
He's like, I'm sorry, I'm so awesome. Like, make fun of me, I'm awful.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's I mean, even the most masculine story gets told with just a sprinkle of feminism in it most of the time.
Yeah, it would be nice to not have that sprinkle.
Yeah, you don't really get that. I mean, I think that is why. Like, even think about like that's why people like the John Wick movies, right? Literally, somebody ruined his memory of his wife and killed his dog, so he just goes off and just destroys the rest of the mob. Right? Men can identify with that story.
Yeah, that's why maybe the Furiosa revenge plot didn't hit the same.
Again, a woman wouldn't get revenge that way.
No.
A man would get revenge that way, which is why, what I mean by, and I saw people talking about, like, look, we gave Furiosa like a middle of the road review. All I said was that it wasn't as good as Fury Road. And the CGI definitely wasn't as good as Fury Road. But it wasn't a girl boss movie. But the point is just because she's not a girl boss doesn't mean that that type of revenge story fits with a feminine character.
Yeah, it's like, you know, if you look at it in terms of wokeness, I guess Velma is a vat of bleach and Furiosa is a cup of coffee with one drop of formaldehyde in it. But, you know, it's still there and you don't want to drink it.
Yes.
Right? Yeah. It just turns people off and they're not really able to articulate why.
I talked about loving the original Tomb Raider movie. Well, guess what? A big part of that is there is something that people consider sexy about exploration, and then you have like a sexy character.
I mean, people really liked Challengers, I hear, because it's just like a sexy sports movie with like people who are athletic and they look good. And it doesn't need to be more complicated or pretentious than that.
Or think Bruce Willis in Die Hard, saving the day. Like, those movies nowadays just don't feel the same, at least on a regular. Like, what a lot of the movies that come out now are more violent, but seem to have less of an actual message. So,
well, what should the message be?
I mean, I think the thing is, it becomes too complicated. This goes back to what I was talking about men were men and women were women. Guys' family, there's a reason why Liam Neeson made a career, even though it was the joke. They're like, he didn't make any money until he got the Taken franchise. There's a reason why those movies resonate with people. Guy's family is important to him. Family member is abducted. He must now go and save family member.
Make it legible.
That is a very simple story to tell. And then parts 2 and 3 come along. Now he's the one who gets taken, and he has to help his daughter find him. It doesn't resonate. Not in the same way. It's if anything, they make these stories far too complicated. They're talking right now, Blade is going through like rewrite number 5,000. It's not hard to make a movie about Blade killing vampires. It's not. You give him the gun, you give him the sword, you put some vampires there, you kill the vampires.
But where's the social commentary?
Exactly.
We need that. Thank you, guys.
Thanks for watching. Listen to full episodes of Pop Culture Crisis on Spotify.
Keep up with us on social media and make sure you subscribe and ring that bell so you never miss the show. Bye, guys.